How many podcasts and videos have you watched this year that have great insights that you applied? I know that we have all the best intentions, and in this final episode of the season, we're going to take a look back at some mic drop moments from some of our guests and see where we can apply those learnings right now. And I do have someone with me today that's going to help me apply some things with me. All this and more is coming up next on the Business Breakout.
This is a shakedown. Order up that beat just like a takeout. Show me you got
soul inside the new shoes. You can rock and roll with an attitude. So good, so fresh, just the way you like it. Welcome to the season finale of season 2. I cannot believe that we've been here this long, but you know, whether you have been in business for yourself or you're working for someone else, we have all got things that we want to achieve. And a great way to find new ideas is with video podcasts like this one. Oftentimes, though, those new ideas go unused. But before I go any further, if this is your first time here, hello there. My name is Glasgow, the host and director of Fundability at Beyond Virtual Events, where I help established small businesses create impactful virtual experiences that keep their audiences engaged from start to finish. And this just so happens to be the very unconventional virtual event that I produce live inside of Zoom on the first and third Wednesday of every month. And like I mentioned, this is the last show of this particular season. We're in season 2. So be on the lookout for season 3, which will be starting up sometime in August or September. This is my personal invite to you to join me in Zoom at that time and join me on the journey as we go along for the rest of the summer, so you can see what's possible for your online events. And depending on where you're watching from, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, the link to register will be in the description. If you want to join us today, I'm taking a cue from my friend who I have on today. The link to come into this Zoom meeting today is actually in the description right now. So if you want to come in here and be a part of this conversation and get your business groove on, then you can come and join us. And speaking of my guest, I had the opportunity to be with a friend of mine yesterday who is a fellow event tech. And I asked him today, I said, you know what? Would you like to come on my show today and talk about how we apply some of these things when it comes to business? And, you know, we've all learned a lot of things over the year and listened to podcasts and all of those fun things. And then, you know, it's a matter of actually applying it. So I wanted to invite him on to be with me today as I recap this season 2 of the Business Breakout. His name is Miran Van Buren, and he is an event tech consultant for B2B events and the founder of Event Mender. Please welcome to the stage, Miran Van Buren. Hey, Miran.
Thank you so much, Ella.
How are
It's
you?
a pleasure to be here.
I'm so happy to
doing very
have you.
well.
I'm so happy to have
Looking
you.
forward to all those mic drop moments.
Look.
It's gonna be a fun one.
It is going to be a fun one. You know, this show came about, now it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years, Merritt. And I think that you and I had a conversation about what it was I was doing before I even decided to have this particular show come into fruition. So it's really nice to have you on here with me today as someone who knew I had this rolling around in my brain for a long time. And today, my plan is to go back through some of the guests that we've had over this past season who have really brought some really great insights to running businesses and helping us to understand, you know, how we can be better at what it is that we do. And I know, Miran, you have your business with Event Mender. And before we get into the mic drop moments, I want to have our guests hear a little bit from you and what it is that you do.
Yeah, well, I have been in business for quite a while. From the business perspective speaking, I've been starting helping companies to mainly, build their brand, get out there, in terms of the marketing perspective, eventually rolled into a business to business company, which happens to organize a lot of events for the industry. And that's where my appetite for events really kicked off. Although I later realized I've been in the event industry in many aspects whilst working in festivals and being a DJ on the side. But yeah, in that regards, I saw potential to really help an industry that uh, during the whole pandemic situation had a very rough patch. And luckily, I saw enough opportunities for them to still keep going, keep delivering through, in this case, virtual events, but also the huge amount of technology that's out there and how hard it is for event technology, for an event professional to understand which technology they need, especially in the hectic periods they're in. So then I kind of started another company, which happened to be Event Mender, which turned out to become a matchmaking platform for event professionals to find that right technology. So I've quite some business background, and as you can imagine, um, yeah, it doesn't all come through university. If anything, 99% of the things I know and I do and I apply in my own work, I've learned outside of the traditional educational system, which a lot of that is online. And I think it's very important to understand how you can retain that information because I've also watched a billion different shows that I was like, oh, that's such a great idea. And then 100 shows later, you've completely forgotten about it. So it's very important to find ways to take action on that knowledge. So I was very happy that you invited me to become a guest because I think it's a very important topic. So I'm looking forward to the episode.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Are you ready to see our first mic drop
Let's
moment?
go.
We have a friend of mine. His name is Nick Smith, and he is a sales evangelist. And he was talking about building trust and storytelling, which I know that you and I can talk circles and things about. So, are you ready? Here we go.
And so I think the biggest challenge that we have in sales or in business is how do we shorten the time to trust? A great analogy for this is the bucket, right? Trust is built in little drops that fill up that trust bucket, but it's spilled all at once. And the challenge is you don't necessarily have the time to put those little drips into the bucket always. If you need results right away, how can you shorten the time to trust? Storytelling is a major part of that. Vulnerability is a major part of that because most salespeople, they're going to try and be very presentable. They're going to talk about all of the wonderful things they can do, all of their successes. But I ask my customers not to judge me by my successes because everybody has successes in business. Judge me by my failures and how I responded to those failures and was able to actually overcome those failures, right? Because there are going to be bumps in the road no matter who you're working with, right? So I think that vulnerability plays a key aspect in that. And the other thing that you can do, trust can be borrowed in addition to built. And so you can borrow trust by connecting with people through someone they already trust.
Look, that
Love
is
it.
what we're having to do with our events and with our clients' events and with our businesses is build trust. I have my thoughts on what it is that Nick had to say about that, but I'm so curious to hear how you think we can apply that, especially with what we do within the events industry.
Ooh, big question. Like, in terms of what he and that's what I like in terms of digesting knowledge. Using an analogy, and in this case, the bucket, that for me visualizes what he's trying, the point he's trying to make, which then helps me to build a memory point. So I can get back to that later. Um, and I think that is indeed like you have to build up that bucket, and if you are not careful and you bump it over, you lose your whole bucket. Um, I love that, like that immediately sticks to me. So that, it also depends in terms of the content you're watching. But in terms of how we can apply it when we talk about storytelling, a lot of that is also, like yesterday we talked a lot about, personalization and not a one size fits all. When you look at storytelling, it's a lot about how can you make that story resonate with your audience. And there, a first step you can do is obviously do some research in terms of your audience, their pain points, where they're at, like their jobs to be done, so to speak. So what are they trying to achieve? And then use your own stories to kind of add those points to it. And you can start relatively easy, I would say, is by talking to one of your, trusted clients or your trusted customer, someone you've already established that, there's already a full bucket of trust right there. Um, and just listen to their story. And then in your own content, like whilst, if we're talking about events, it can be before, during, and after. If it's about your marketing campaign, you look at all the different stages of your, going from awareness all the way to converting them. um, you can use different touch points to then take that story and relate it to the touch points so they feel more bonded with your brand, so to speak. They feel like you understand who they are. um, and the same goes with the vulnerabilities. Obviously, that's a lot more looking at yourself, where you are at. And it's not easy to talk about things that didn't went according to plan, because in this world we are supposed to be this perfect person, which I hate to break it to you, but no one is. Um, and that's something where you have to really get comfortable with being vulnerable and try, try to talk about a little mistake that, it's not the worst thing ever happened to you, so you can ease yourself into it. And that's the best way to get started with doing those things. Just incorporate a little bit at a time, try to do it more often, and the more often you do it, the more it becomes a habit. And before you know it, you see the results that it drive, which then give you a positive feedback loop, as in, hey, what I'm doing is actually resonating to them. I see better conversion, I see better retaining of those clients, customers, the people you would like to target. Then that also enforces you to then do more of it, which, you know eventually will end up to you.
Yeah.
99% of it will be storytelling, because
Yeah.
let's be honest, it's the most powerful tool out there.
I think too, when it comes to storytelling, and especially with what it is that we do with events, when it comes to storytelling, I think a thing that can get lost oftentimes is actually creating a story that your audience moves through, right? So when you're thinking about creating that event and you're thinking about creating those moments, if you don't know what story it is that you're trying to tell, and you don't know the beginning, the middle, and the end, because all stories have a beginning, middle, and end, and we're all more engaged if we have a story that we're listening to. We would all rather listen to a story than just happenstance on the stage, especially when it comes to an event. So being able to apply that concept of beginning, middle, and end, and that through line. There always has to be a through line from where we're starting at the event and our audience, and where it is that we are trying to get to. And sometimes it can be a challenge to sort out what that through line should be. And I know as business owners, oftentimes we may think, well, I don't know what it is that they want, or maybe we have some idea in our heads of what it is our clients, our customers may want from us. And it can be a challenge to sort out what's going to be the best idea and the best way to make that happen. And one of my guests that happened to come on, her name is Mary Lasky Bell, and she works with an email automation. And she gave this great tip of what you can do to find out exactly what it is your audience wants so that you can tell them a great story. Take a listen.
For getting people in, whether it's organically or through paid ads. You've done the work to build this list, and you now have this active list of contacts, leads, buyers who you can do your market research from, right? Like you can literally send an email today and ask them what kind of content they want you to share, what kind of questions they have, what kind of stories they want to hear, what made them originally sign up for your list, or why are they excited to stick around? What are they hoping to learn? And they will tell you what emails to send them, right? So I think sometimes people overcomplicate it too. And there is some strategy and there is some nuance. Every list is different, which is why the reporting is so key for what we're doing. Because even if somebody says, this is what's working in email marketing right now, you have to test that on your own list and see if it applies to your audience. Um, and so asking them what they want from you is like the easiest no-brainer uh like approach to strategy that you can implement right now.
Yeah, and I think that that was, considering what we're talking about, like out of the box, I feel like that one is the most out of the box because it's so in front of our face, it's too hard to see.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I find that a lot of the things, especially when I'm consulting clients, and I share something with them and they're like, how did I not know that? Or how could I not see that? And it's often that we're just too close, right? And so just having somebody to even brainstorm ideas with, and are you talking business with other business owners? Are you talking about the services you provide with other people who provide something similar?
So, yeah, those things right there. Like, Mirren, how many times have you talked with a business owner, somebody who's trying to put their event together, and you point out one little thing to them, and they're like, oh, it was literally right there. I could have just.
Too many times. And the fun thing is that no matter how many expert I talk to, because I also often ask for help, in areas where I'm not the strongest. And then when they say something that for them is so obvious, then for me the light bulb goes on. I think that's something we as business owners should realize ourselves a lot more, that we've been doing, you're working in your own expertise, in your own field, in your own industry for a very long time. So you've probably seen everything. But what is super obvious for you because you have all those experience is absolutely not obvious for the person you're trying to help. And therefore, it's good to realize that, those things that you take for granted because you're the expert, whether you like it or not, that's your imposter syndrome. You're like, oh, no one can think it's super valuable. It is actually very valuable. So that is one key takeaway. And a little side note to what she mentioned, I totally agree. Like it is a strategy I use myself very often. Is just asking the people you're trying to target, your ideal customer profile, like, what is it that you would like to see? But make sure you ask the right questions. And I would highly recommend reading a book, that's the Mom Method, or Mom's Questions. I'll share that one with
Find
you.
out what that,
It's
find, because
about
I want to know.
it's a very good book where the kind of bottom line there is, if you would ask your mom, like, what I'm trying to do here, do you think it's a great idea? She would, assuming she is a good mom, she would always say, "Oh, great idea. Go on. You keep going." Because she likes to support you, and that's actually the case for many people. Like, believe it or not, we see the world as a bad place, but more often than not, people try to be as kind as possible because they feel like if I tell them this idea sucks, that might be offensive to them. So 99% of the people, if you ask them if is this a great idea, they'll tell you, yeah, it's a great idea, whether they believe it or not. So be careful with the questions you're asking, not trying to set them up for giving you an answer you would like to hear, but put it in a way where you tap into their own experience. Where that's something that I took from that particular book. They say, like, if you ask your mom, like, yeah, should I create this amazing application where you have a cookbook, for instance, to cook your recipes, she would say great idea. But if you would ask her, like, what are you currently using for your cooking book, or for your cooking? Do you use a cooking book? Do you use websites? Do you even have an iPad? Like, turns out she is only reading hardcover, then it's not going to be a great solution to come up with an app. Even though she told you it was a great idea, she would never use it.
Right.
So put it in a way where they talk from experience, something they already are doing. And that's the same with, when it comes to what would you pay for this. It's great to ask it to your audience and your ICP. It's the best tactic, but make sure you don't ask them like, oh, would you pay $100 for this? They would probably say yes, even though they wouldn't be
Right.
paying that. So
Exactly.
even better is just to send them the check and see if they actually pay it. But there are ways how you can frame those questions to get answers that are more sincere than when someone trying to be kind in terms of,
Right.
oh, I'm trying to support this person. Yes,
Right.
of course I would do it. But
So I think like
will they?
I think the takeaway from Mary's piece is that we got to be willing to ask questions. We got to be
Oh,
willing
yeah.
to ask our existing audience. It's something as simple as asking, "What do you want?" It can be as
Very
simple
true.
as that. It doesn't have to be a really big deal. I'm thinking about right now, and I was telling you about this yesterday, man, that I was talking with someone about their event, and they were saying, they didn't think that they had an audience. They didn't think that they had anyone that they could reach out to get people into their event. And when we started looking back at what it was that they're doing or what they've done, I said, "Do you still have connections to those particular people that you've already worked with? Do you have their contact information?" And he was like, "Yeah, but they're not my target audience." And I said, "It doesn't matter that they're not your target audience. You may find by sending a simple email, as simple as, 'Hey, catching up, finding out what you're up to,' as simple as that, that one or many of them are going to answer and tell you what they're up to, which starts a conversation, which gives you the impetus to find out where they are. And you may find out that they have moved into a place where your target audience actually is, which is an easy thing to do. But like I said, he thought that he didn't have anything to get to. And maybe you're thinking, I don't have anybody to ask. You probably do. You just have to dig a little deeper. Isn't that what Mama Cody, what's her name? From The Princess and the Frog. Isn't that what she said? Dig a little deeper and
Yeah,
uncover,
absolutely.
turn over those rocks that you may not have thought were of any significance to you that really could turn into something huge. And I'm excited to see where his list goes after taking these little steps to make those things happen. I want to go through mic drop moments all day. We may go a little longer than we usually do with our 30-minute episodes today because I really want to bring all of the pieces that I've uncovered to you. And right now I kind of want to take a little right off of this particular road. And Miran, what I want you to be thinking about is when you see this is innovation, like doing things differently, because and being able to bring a unique moment. That's all I need. I'm gonna stop because that's who I'm bringing on next. Bringing a unique moment. Okay, are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, here we go.
So if you guys would like to be involved and incorporate your touch into my intuitive live painting, if you tell me a line, a shape, or even like an adjective, a word, I can incorporate that into my live piece that I'm painting right now. It is still very much in the beginning phases. I basically filled the page with color so that now it's a playground for anything to happen. So, does anybody have a word, a line, a shape to add to this piece?
Yes, go ahead and pop it into the chat. Oh, I see Mary put in triangle. This is
Triangle.
gorgeous. This is
Awesome.
gorgeous. Oh my gosh. I love this. So go ahead and pop it into the chat wherever you are watching from. Give Kyla any line, shape, any imagery that you want her to incorporate into this painting. And while she's doing this, she's going to be talking with us and answering some questions. And Mary said I had no idea she was already painting. Right? I know. I didn't realize she was already painting either. Have you seen that happen in a virtual setting before, Miran?
Um, up until a certain degree, like you have a lot of the live illustration
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
artists that kind of
Illustrations for
summarize
sure.
whilst the session is going on, they summarize it in a drawing, which I always enjoy very much. But like this particular co-creation, so to speak, um, not an awful lot. Like it, not like this particularly. So
Yeah.
really like the approach. Like I'm a big fan of co-creation in
Yeah.
general, but
And we were
yeah.
talking about yesterday about, innovative ideas to really involve your audience. Here is a cool thing. Having had Kyla on, she paint I don't have the finished painting to show you today, but you can kind of go search through my past post to see the finished painting. But she created that in the moment, in the 30 minutes that we were together. She created this beautiful work that we did end up sending to one of our audience members that won that painting. And the neat thing is being able to bring an audience in on a different level, doing something very differently. Like you said, Miran, there are people that are doing art illustrations of different moments that are happening in the event. And this is another unique way to be able to create a commemorative piece that is a commemorative moment of the event, and have everybody that's a part of the event really contribute to how that moment turns out, as it were. Which I thought was
I
pretty
love it.
cool.
I love it, and in a lot of ways, if you look at the story behind the IKEA brand, they actually figured out that um, the moment that customers started to assemble their own furniture, because for them it was actually more cost efficient, but that actually gave a higher relationship or a higher value to the product. People admired their own craft, so to speak, because they put in their own effort to get to the end results. And that is something that, this is a great example of when you can activate your audience, your ideal customers, to become part of the product. And, in terms of software, you can do that by letting them add feature requests and bug reports. In terms of the event, you can ask them like, what is the content you would like to see, kind of shape the event, and then bring that to life where an attendee or an ideal customer feels like, hey, I have contributed to this piece, which then doesn't just make them another user of the product or another attendee. It makes them feel like they've been part in building it, and that makes them even more proud and makes them even more likely to become a real loyal customer, where they become an advocate for your brand. So it's a
Exactly.
it's a very powerful way.
Exactly. And touching back on something that you had mentioned earlier, that we kind of said about asking questions and really being, as leaders, whether you're a leader in your own business, as in you're running your own business, or you're a leader in a company that you are helping to run, oftentimes it can be a challenge, as we said, to reach out and ask for help or listen to the advice or the words of those around us. And the next mic drop moment that I want us to take a listen to is of a friend of mine. His name is Gabriel Mudd, and he is a DEI advocate. But the thing that he had to say about really being able to be in a place and a position as a leader, to be able to find that place of growth where you can listen to those around you and being able to create that atmosphere that says, I'm hearing what it is that you're saying. Let's take a listen.
You end up being able to be more empathetic. You end up being able to be more compassionate. You end up listening to others actively and wanting to see the world become a better place because you know something that is outside of yourself. And that way, when you grow, the people around you can grow. And if we look at it from that aspect of saying, like, okay, well, I'm taking this time as a business owner to grow and learn about something that is not me and that I don't have experience with. I get to grow personally, but I get to serve a different point in my business that I would not have necessarily been able to see before because I'm engaging with people that I would not have been around in a different way.
When you can grow, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
When you can grow, the people around you can grow. I love the way that you put that, and being able to help owners, business owners, help the CEOs to be able to understand that they really have to take the time to listen, which sometimes when we're in those positions of power, whatever side of the fence that we happen to be living on, sometimes it's harder to open our ears to hear what those around us have to say. But we really do need to take the time to listen, to just be quiet and listen, because those other
Yeah, and I
people
think
also
it's
need the opportunity to be able to speak.
yeah, sorry to speak over you.
Yeah.
It takes humility. It takes that time to like be like, okay, cool. I know this, but this person is saying something else. I'm gonna put down what I have so that I can listen and learn something different.
Putting down what we already know so that we can listen and learn something different. Have you ever, I say, have you ever? Marianne, I know that you have had a moment
Many.
where we've had to take a listen to what somebody else says. I'd love to hear your takeaway on that, and where you feel like you can apply that or have applied that that lesson.
Well, like, and that is both internally as externally. Like, back to the co-creation part, it's sometimes a stakeholder that you're talking with has a point of view or some insights that you've never thought about before, which, well, wouldn't directly change everything like 180 degrees the other way around, but definitely has an impact in terms of where you're going. And in that regards, you, especially if you're the founder of a company, but in general, wherever you are located within that company structure, um, we are our own limitation. As in, if we're not growing, that means we cannot make a bigger impact. That means we cannot make the right decisions, and they're listening and learning from input from others. And it might as well be that you're listening to someone and it turned out not to be the right angle, but then at least you've learned what is not the right angle. Like, that's also part of learning. But more often than not, people are not absolutely delulu, so to speak. So they actually have some good insights, and they come from, especially if they're talking from their own experience, their own pain points. They're not the only ones. And if they are your ideal customer profile, or if they are your core team within the company you're working with, it's gonna be worth listening in, absolutely,
Yeah.
and being open to suggestions from people. That it doesn't just give you the opportunity to learn and find new angles and take your company to the next level, but that also empowers those you're working with or those you're creating for,
Yeah.
to feel part of the process again, where if your team feels like they can contribute to where you're going and actually make an impact, not just, oh yeah, great idea, we're not going to do anything with that, that means they will stay. And eh, assuming you want to retain a healthy workforce and people that have talent, you want to keep them, retain them, then you better start listening.
Yeah. The listening is absolutely key. And I'm thinking about right now a little project that I've got going on that I haven't talked very much about. So I'll take a moment to talk about it now. And that I've been working on some things behind the scenes, and I took the advice of these mic drop moments that you've been listening to, we've been watching back, and asking my audience questions and things that they wanted from me. And one of the things that I had found out that people needed help with and wanted my help with specifically was their video podcasts, because it's something that I understand. I understand video, I understand podcasting, I understand the technical things behind it, but specifically understanding how to make it that stuff that happens after the podcast is recorded. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but just know that I'm working on something. I've got some people in a beta program right now, and being able to help them to have what I like to call upload ready podcasts, so that you can have a podcast that doesn't drain your soul when it comes to the tech side of things. The things that have to happen afterwards. And I've been asking them for their feedback as we go through this process, so that by the time you and I have an opportunity to meet, that we've got some of these things unlock, I'm asking specifically, what are the frustrations that you're having with any of the processes and things that I'm doing? And I want you to be absolutely honest and don't just tell me fluff because you like me so much. And we're finding where those kinks are, where can things be better in the process so that the next people that come through can have an even better experience than those who are in the program right now. But trust me, I will tell you more about it as the summer progresses and as we get through this first iteration of things. I will let you know more about it. That being said, Miran, I'm so happy that you were able to be on here with me today. There are more mic drop moments that I could go through right now, but we've already gone longer than I ever go. For this particular show. So I want to say thank you again. And before we say goodbye to you, Miran, is there anything that you want to leave our audience with as a parting word with what we've talked about today?
Well, first of all, make sure to watch all these mic drop moments because, as Ella said, there are a lot more. Secondly, not just listen to them, but one of the examples we saw, Ella said, like, oh, I wrote it down. It's something that helps a lot for me, like listening to something and writing it down. That is how you retain knowledge. Even better if you can explain it to your colleague or to a friend, because that way, if you're teaching what you've just learned, preferably as soon as possible, even better. But the best way to do it is make sure to set up a plan to implement it in a way where it becomes part of your habits, your routine. It doesn't have to be a goal like, oh, I want to have 100,000 pieces of storytelling next month. Um, but make it in terms of a process where you're like, oh, every day I'm gonna write a story of one of my clients, and it doesn't have to be published. It doesn't have to be not like make it as very small step, but make sure you start with it right away because what I've learned from myself is everything I don't implement within the first, well, I want to say day, but let's say week, but in general, like first day, if I haven't made a plan to implement it, it will never come back unless I then rewatch the episode and be like, oh yeah, completely forgot. I should have done that. So make sure you take action right away. It's the most important thing you can do. Like getting knowledge is great, but taking action on it is what's really gonna move the needle for you. It's like I think it was Tony Robbins or something who said like knowing but not doing is the same as not knowing, and therefore you've wasted a lot of time with everything, all the knowledge you've gathered that you didn't do anything with. So I would highly recommend everyone who's watching, listening, go back to all those episodes, listen to all those experts that are on this show, and for each and every mic drop moment, get yourself a plan of action. How can you make a small step that already starts implementing this learning, so you can actually put it into action? That's the best way how you can make the most out of all these mic drop
Yeah,
moments.
for sure, for sure. Thank you so much for that. I love that quote that you said from Tony Robbins. If you're not implementing it now, you're wasting time. So let's not waste any more time. Miran, thank you so much for being here with me today. I really, really appreciate you. And thank you for being here with me, whether you've been here with me in the live moment or you've been here with me in the replay, wherever it is that you're listening or watching from. I appreciate you. And like I said, this is the end of season two. And we're moving into season three of the Business Breakout. We're going to have more great guests. We're going to have some things that are going to be changing. But one thing that will not change is the ability for you to come and join us and be a part of the conversation right here inside of Zoom. I know this doesn't look like Zoom right now because I can't let it look like Zoom. And when you come inside of Zoom with me, trust and believe it doesn't look like Zoom when you're in here with me as either. But at Beyond Virtual Events, I want you to remember that it's not just about hosting events. It's about crafting engaging experiences with purpose, because an event, after all, is a stepping stone. And when you've done it right, it can transform a single moment into a cascade of marketing opportunities for your business. And I can help you overcome those challenges that you may be facing with your online events. So if you are looking to elevate your virtual presence and turn your next event into a powerhouse of ongoing lead generating engagement without tech headache, I'm here to make that happen. Until next time, remember to watch and implement, and everything that you do can go far beyond. We'll see you next time.